Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Tamara. I'm sorry. I know it's been a hot second. I know. And as you read in the subject, we are here to review Gold, which is the 5th installment of the Plated Prisoner series. But before we get into that, I feel like I owe you a slight explanation. And I'm going to say this, and I hope that you guys maybe don't fall into the same bandwagon I did, but I blame romantasy reading for this. So on social media, this is where I've been, by the way. On social media, I saw somewhere that if you like romantasy reading, you should watch this new Netflix show called Sandakan. I watched it because I love romantasy reading. It was okay. I wouldn't say it's worth the watch. But the main lead guy who plays Sandakan, I thought was filthy attractive. Like, I was obsessed with him, and that's the reason I finished that show. So because of that, I did some research, and I realized that that actor is from some Turkish romance comedy show that's completely on Netflix. All episodes are on not Netflix, YouTube. All the episodes are on YouTube. Anyways, I ended up binging that show. It's called in English Daydreamer or Early Bird. One of the two. You'll find it if you ever search it. Just to see this man again. And I was obsessed, watching till 2 a.m. obsessed. And normally I read till 2 a.m. So this is why I wasn't here. And I finished it. It took a lot out of me, an emotional journey. I've been doing this for 3 weeks, obsessed with this show, and now it is done. And now I can get back to my life and reading. And we instantly picked Gold back up because I had started it, got distracted by this show, and then had to come back. So we're here. I feel like I owed you that. I owed you that explanation. I just finished reading this, I swear, like 20 minutes ago. And so thoughts are very fresh. I normally stop and think before I make these videos, let it all sink in. But I feel like there was enough in this that I don't need to do that. I don't need to do that. Like, I have a lot of strong feelings about this book, and I just want to talk about it right away where it's incredibly fresh to me. But let's just start. Actually, we should clarify. These are spoiler reviews, by the way. If you didn't read the book and care to be spoiled, step aside and come back. If you don't care, then please let's talk about it. I give this book a 4 to 5. 4 to 5. And I will say that I have to squash this right away. The amount of people that try and tell me that this book series has such a slow trajectory in the 6 books between book 4 and 5. I feel like I acknowledged this in my book 4 review, but I disagree. I disagree that people should stop reading it because the pacing is slow. I do agree that the pacing is slow at given points in these books, but I don't think it's slow where you get bored. I don't think it's not impactful. I think it's necessary. And I said that in the 4th book review too, and I'm going to regurgitate that for this one because I liked the 4th one. If you saw my previous review, I really liked it. I didn't find there was anything that didn't make sense. There was a lot that happened in book 3. We needed to slow down. We needed to think about everything that happened and move forward with the journey. And I feel like they paced that really well in book 4. And in true fashion, something crazy happens at the end. It's similar to this book in that way as well. But the difference is, although the first probably 3/4 of this book can be perceived as slow, it didn't feel slow, similar to the 4th one to me. It felt impactful because all of the mystery, I'm not going to call them plot holes in a sense, meaning that like the writers messed up, because I feel like plot holes gets a bad annotation. That's not what I mean. I just mean that all of the gaps in the world building that we've been thinking about, all of the mystery, everything for the most part is revealed in this book. I feel like we got all of the missing pieces. And a huge part of that is because of someone told me I've been saying her name wrong, and I have heard this before, but I can't help it. I feel like I butcher names all the time, but Aureen, someone says her name is Oren. I'm sorry for consistency. We're sticking with Aureen, but I hear you, okay? I hear you. I just can't get out of habits now. When Aureen ends up in the Fae Kingdom, I feel like that was a huge door open to figure out the rest of this story. I loved the journey of these books, and I can't wait for the ending. But the Fae, the relevance and the references to Anwen being the Fae Kingdom was always a big mystery to me. I wanted to know more about it. It wasn't enough to hear about it from Slade's perspective, how he got his people and his mom to Oria. I wanted to see what happened to his dad. I assumed something like this would come out. Obviously, with now the bridge being formed from the Seventh Kingdom as well, we expected to get a lot of Fae relevance in this book, and we did. We absolutely did. And so first and foremost, the world building that they added to this book really put the whole journey in a full circle, full picture for me. And I loved it. You not only got to like the initial place where Aurene was dropped off when she fell through the rip, but you traveled amongst the Fae Kingdom quite literally in this book. So you got like a full journey in that side. And it's primarily on that side. Like we obviously go back to Oria for other POVs, but you get a lot on this side of the world, a lot of new faces we meet. And I just felt like the world building was exceptional. Okay, we're gonna say that right now, because now leading into the final installment, we have everything in place foundation wise for this final resolution at the end, and like maybe a war even. So I'm ecstatic and really happy to see now how the final book ends us. Now we're going to talk about Aurene for a second. Don't come for me. I know I'm saying her name wrong. Anyways, Aurene, her character in general in this book, like we know that she gained some grasp of her magic by the end of the last book. But this book was a full moment for her to not only prove it, that she had control of her magic, and not even just had control, like she fully used her magic in so many creative ways in this. And to see her come into her own with that kind of control, creativity, own her choices and act. I feel like the other book, we had some dabble of her proving it, but this was like a full moment for her. I feel like in this book, like she showed who she was, and you get this whole revelation about her family bloodline, what happened to them. Again, it filled in a lot of missing pieces about the mystery of her. And still some are a little bit outstanding, which I'll mention at the end, but for the most part, you really fill in a lot of gaps, and I loved it. And a lot of people here are trying to tell her who she is, what she can be to them, and almost trying to force these expectations on her, similar to when she was in Oria, to be honest. And I feel like her character had this big moment where she was done really listening, letting people tell her what she can and can't be, and she's choosing what she wants. She's choosing what she wants to do. And I loved it. I loved seeing it. I loved seeing her evolution in this, with how often she played with her magic to help different kinds of people, how she wasn't afraid. Like, I feel like her character made me so happy in this book. And I didn't think it would, because we're going to talk about Slade in a second, but I thought I'd be pretty bummed that they didn't get reunited in this one. I think I mentioned at the end of my fourth book review that I'd be pretty sad. And as much as I am disappointed, I feel like it was necessary. Like, after reading this, I'm okay with it. Do I wish the reunion came sooner? Absolutely, because I know it's going to be a great reunion, but I'm okay with it. And it's because I feel like it gave her the time to be her own character, and she even acknowledges that as part of her journey. Like, how can someone love me if I can't like necessarily learn to love myself? And in this one, she really does, and she acknowledges that like she's never had a home, but now Slade has become her home, and that's her priority, getting back to him. And it's the same thing with him and her. And so I just feel like I really appreciated her in this book more than any of the books so far. So love. Slade, let's go into him. This man, I feel like I hear so much and I see so much on like the Book Talk World Instagram about how he is in like top book tier boyfriends, okay? Like book boyfriends. Everyone compares him to Xaden, to Rhysand, to Kingfisher, like all of these big book boyfriend names in the romantasy world. And I was concerned when I first started reading this, because I have a pretty core list of my favorites, and I was like, oh no, like Slade's gonna mess up my list because he's that impactful. And he is now in my top 3 after this book, and I'm incredibly happy to have read this journey, to see what all the hype is about this man. I truly, like, he was a mystery. We slowly learn more and more about him, specifically in book 4 and 5, actually. More so book 4, but book 5, I feel like everything comes to action in book 5 for me. Like, he reaped so much revenge on behalf of everything that happened that involves Aurene and her captivity. And it is like such a satisfying thing to see. But we also see his torment. Again, like we saw it in book 4, but in this one, it's just so different, because it's not just Aurene, it's his mother, it's the people he swore to protect. Now they're in harm's way again. Like, it's just, you see so much vulnerability and action in this man that I am obsessed. I truly am. Slade, like I said, is now in my top 3. I haven't rearranged where this falls yet in my top 3, but maybe one day I'll do a YouTube video about it. But he is an outstanding character, and I am so, so happy. One thing I will say that I am still a little bit confused about is the wrath that's spilling out of him. And we'll talk about that when we talk about what happened at the end of this book. Because like I said, I just read it, so I didn't really think that much about what this could be. So we'll talk about it then. But anyways, love, 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 love. Okay, Melina. Guys, I had mentioned in the earlier book reviews that this character, although she was cheesing me, I was very much interested if she is going to be an unlikely ally for Aurene down the line, because she's going to realize she's going to have a whole full circle recovery story. I did not expect that to be the full, like, she's almost like a third of the book content here. She's a consistent POV in this one. And I did not expect that to have so much detail and emphasis in this book, and I'm pleasantly surprised. I really am. I was holding out for it, but I do think that the reason why I enjoyed it so much is because she had a character like the assassin to bring this out of her. So Doric, I think his name was, he in the early stages of this became one of my favorite male characters, because similar to Ostrich in the prior book, when he was scolding Risa for being so unworthy of Aurene's friendship and really giving it to her to make her feel bad, but she knows it's the truth. This man did that times 20 to Melina, and she needed to hear it. Like, she's one of those characters that her own ignorance, her own jealousy and self-doubt has completely blinded her to what of a shitty person she is. And he not only told her once, he told her on numerous occasions and continuously reminded her of how bad of a person she is. And I feel like she needed to hear it. I was so, so satisfied with that. And then eventually she finally acknowledged and wasn't blind to it anymore. And her character did like this full redemption story in this. And plus, because of that, they did have a little bit of a, obviously, I'm not going to say enemies to lovers, but I guess it kind of is, because he was sent to kill her. But I feel like, and we know how much I love enemies to lovers. It's like my favorite trope of all time. So I was giddy and super, super into their journey and getting her to come back to her kingdom and being so transparent that she's the cause of all of this, and then owning it and trying and not giving up. Her character story in this was actually one of my favorite POVs, and I never thought I would say that, but I do think it is because of Doric's complete influence in this. Because if you didn't have a character like that to balance out such an egotistical character, it wouldn't have nearly been as impactful. So I am so happy with how that story is unveiling. And I also think that when she came back to her original kingdom and got exposed to Queen Kalia, we don't like Queen Kalia. We're going to talk about her after, but not to much extent, because she deserves very little. But anyways, when she told Melina that Midas is dead, and then she conveniently puts Melina in the gilded cage that Aurene used to be in, there was a whole acknowledgement there about the jealousy that Melina felt for Aurene. And I was waiting for this. We know I was waiting for this, where Kalia was like, did you ever ask her? Did you ever ask her? Did she want to be the golden pet that you wanted to be in this cage? Like, did you ever think about it from Aurene's perspective? And then Melina had a moment again where if she didn't come this far in the journey, she wouldn't have acknowledged what Kalia was saying. Like, she already acknowledged through most of the book that everything that she thought was wrong and she should stop being stick-headed. And so at this point, she acknowledges that she never thought about it, and she should have. And then she also, when it was confirmed that Midas was killed by Aurene, and Melina had to take that in too, her brain started going to like, maybe she hated him as much as I did, and I was so jealous that I couldn't see it. And this is one of those things that I was like, I love it that we're finally getting this. And I just didn't expect to get such a big recovery in this book. Honestly, I was really pleasantly surprised, and I loved it. Okay, let's talk about the ending, because again, these are like the key things. This is why I was like, I need to talk about it, because nothing's been so clear to me as the outcome of this book for me. This ending, I thought, was really well done. And I just think this book in general, with all of the filling in the gaps that I said before, it was paced really well. So when it got to the ending, Also, sorry, before I even get to the ending, I forgot. We should talk about Kalia for a second. Kalia sucks. I'm sorry, she sucks. She's strategic. I get where she's going with like how she was trying to manipulate everything. But part of me was like, I can't believe she abandoned that kingdom that was under siege by the Fae. I thought maybe she was going to get help. I thought she was like actually a caring person because she makes it seem like her kingdom loves her. So I thought there was reason to love her. But she's just incredibly selfish and went to get her brother back and couldn't give a rat's butt about what was going on over there. So I was like, you're just a terrible person through and through. At least Melina was misguided, but like you're actually just a shit person. So I was like, she is dead to me. Now let's go on to the end of the book. So the end of the book, a lot had happened. We got reunited with Slade's dad. Aurene realizes that Slade's mother and all of those villagers are over there. Like there's a lot of revelation that happens at the end of this. And in addition, Wick, like one of our new friends that we've met along the way on the Fae side, he ends up being somehow related to Aurene. Like he's also gold touched. He's from the Turley bloodline, which is a threat to the crown on the Fae side, which we learned a lot about the politics, and I thought that was really fascinating. But Wick is somehow in relation, and we don't get the full acknowledgement as to how and why. So that's a mystery for the next book, but that was a surprise. I actually didn't see that coming at all, and so that was kind of cool to see. And then we also saw, now I'm brain farting for a second, the guy who supposedly betrayed them at the end of this, who kind of looped in the fairy ring portal thing and brought them to the king, the place they did not want to go without an army to support them, who is now looking like the biggest traitor to them. In a moment, Aurene realizes that this man is the one who got her out of Anwen and to Oria when she was 5 years old. Like she's remembering that he's the one who took her out of this world. And I'm wondering if he actually isn't a traitor, because why would he do that unless he was trying to protect her? So now I instantly was like, whoa, wait a second. Like this man has more relevance than I thought he would. So I'm curious what that's going to look like in the next one. Slade and everyone discovered that the bridge is now in place and they can get to Aurene without needing a rip. So that's really cool. And then, so I'm excited again about how that's getting set up. And this whole king character, this is one of the biggest question marks to me, besides hearing about how like the Turleys and the Carricks never got along, yada yada. We know very little about this king who supposedly is a villain. So I'm kind of hoping they fill in that last gap for me, because part of me throughout reading this book honestly almost thought that Slade's dad became the king when they all left. But then I realized as soon as we got introduced to the two manors, I'm like, okay, Slade's dad is this Cull guy. But at the end of the day, I actually almost thought that he was the king, which would have been a weird revelation too. But I guess not. So like this whole Carrick thing, that's like my other question mark. So there was more questions came out of this book, but a lot of answers at the same time, which is also why I really enjoyed this. But it also looks like at the very end, they're trying to wipe her memories. Like that's like the last thing we see. And I'm kind of like, I hope that doesn't stick. I hope it's just to knock her out when she wakes up. She's going to remember everything. That's my hope, because that would suck for like memory loss. We don't need any more emotional damage plot points leading into this final installment. I do not need it. When Slade comes and finds her, I need them to know each other. So like I would not be okay with that. But also we realize that they are bonded, and how that whole section was written in here, I thought was beautiful. Like they did, if I can actually find it, they did this whole page thing here. So in a moment, like obviously we know that her magic and his is infused because of that piece of rot that's in him. And then also from the Slade perspective in this book, he's bleeding out rot, and we don't necessarily know why, but it's almost like it's killing him now, and like it's infecting him. And that was like a big question mark as to why that's the case. And is it because the missing piece of him is now in Aurene, which is that rot, and their magic has fused together quite a bit. But it looks like there was some epic moment in here where she almost awoke with both the rot magic and her own while facing Slade's dad. And in the same relevance of this awakening, he also felt it. And so there is a page in this that is almost like, I don't know if you can see it, like it's parallel. Like this is the rift, and this is them on either side of it, and the top is Oreen's perspective and the bottom is Slade's. And like how this was worded was such like an awakening to the rot oozing out of him. Like it feels like they both became whole because they both became bonded. Now it referenced earlier on, well, at the end of this, she realizes that she thinks Slade had known this whole time, but she obviously didn't, because how would she? She wasn't familiar with a lot of the Fae customs because she was a kid. But I'm wondering if like her now realizing and embracing it is what caused this reaction. And so I have to believe that Slade is okay now and he's not oozing out, because it made it look like that. So that part I'm still question marking. I don't know what exactly this means when you're bonded. Like I know that you're bound to each other for eternity, you're drawn to each other, but what does that mean for their magic? Because she's already infused with his, and his was kind of unpredictable. So I'm wondering now, did he get his rift magic back? Is he fully whole again? And that's the part that I'm really curious about, and I want to see that in the next one. And so that's a question mark, and I was really, really happy about it. I really was. And I was like, oh, can't wait. And so on a complete random note as well, I honestly forget all of the creatures' names, but the ones that they fly on, I almost want to call them a wyvern, but I think they're called like a, man, I forget what that species is called, but the ones that they fly on all the time for transportation, and how Slade has some like weird, like they have a weird softness to Slade, even ones that he has not ridden. Like there's a part in this, like as part of his whole avenging her, that he like frees all these animals, especially those creatures that are getting like forced to fight each other in some pit, and he like lets them all go, and then they all are not afraid of him, and they like nudge him, they show sentiment to him, but no one else. So I also just really like that, because I'm like, oh, he's just an animal lover, and I just, as if he couldn't get more perfect. I just absolutely love it. I don't know why that they all love him. It's specifically those creatures, so who knows? But I thought it was really nice. And also the fact that there's a lot of reference to Osric and Risa in this, and these two little sisters that come into play at the end. And I just love what they did for the story, and I'm happy that everything ended kind of like peacefully, and now we're like super set for the next book. So besides for losing her memory, that's not peaceful at all. So I'm hoping that's not the case. But anywho, that's my review for this book. I really did enjoy it. Off to the next, and I promise you won't be waiting long for that one, because we're done with television shows for a while. We are done. We are back to book obsessions, and you'll get another review from me soon. Bye for now, guys.